Possibly one of the most controversial issues in policing today is the proper application of force. Other than the odd scuffle as a child, many people have never been involved in an actual physical confrontation with another person. Society's perception of police use of force is often tainted through the media, television and movies. Rarely do any of these accurately show reality. The majority of law enforcement officers have no desire to engage in a physical confrontation during their duties. However, due to their mandate, the police are often called to deal with a violently resisting subject. Police use of force is designed to gain control of a subject using no more force than is reasonably necessary, having regard firstly to officer safety and secondly to minimizing harm to the subject. The use of force model is one that both the public and police can understand and relate to. This theory is based on the concept of control. Police officers routinely deal with violent subjects and violent situations. The police role is to control this behavior, to end the violence, and have these people dealt with according to law. Law enforcement officers may use lethal force only when necessary, that is, when the officer has a reasonable belief that the subject of such force poses an imminent danger of death or grievous bodily harm to the officer or to another person. Cover is simply defined as protection for the officer from a perceived threat of injury or death. The officer's soft body armor is the most convenient cover available, if the officer is wearing it. Once behind cover, the officer may find himself better able to function mentally. The subconscious level of security affords the officer the ability to reassess, plan and react properly to the threat. The officer is also physically safer. For these important reasons, the officer should deal with this type of situation from cover as much as possible. Prior to intervening and ordering the officer's situation, he should look for possible escape routes with which to tactically disengage if necessary. Look for, demand to see, and watch the hands. They will deliver the threat, or at the very least, telegraph the threat is about to be delivered. Time-distance ratio is also referred to as the reactionary gap. Officer safety training has shown that a minimum of 30 feet between the officer and the subject is considered safe when the threat of a potential physical assault to the officer is possible. Police officers and security personnel must use special handhold and takedown techniques to subdue agitated or violent suspects. The armbar technique, also called the straight armbar technique, consists of a series of moves designed to control and bring the suspect down to the ground with the least amount of force and injury to the arresting officer and the suspect. The armbar technique employs physics and momentum to accomplish the maneuver. By maintaining the grip on the suspect's wrist, the officer kneels on the suspect's backside in a manner that traps the suspect's shoulder. From this position, the suspect is ready for ground handcuffing per the procedures outlined in that lesson plan. When an officer lawfully arrests an individual for the commission of a crime, no matter how minor the offense, the officer is entitled under controlling Supreme Court precedent to effectuate a full custodial arrest. The Special Response Team (SRT) is an elite unit within a police force, used for exceptional situations that require increased firepower or specialized tactics. The SRT is deployed in high-risk warrant executions, forced building entries, hostage situations, barricaded subjects. Most team activations include the following personnel and resources: tactical operators. These are agents trained in a variety of tactical disciplines including forward observation, explosive and mechanical breaching, hostage rescue, dynamic and covert entry techniques. Personal security, detailed operations, rappelling and fast rope training, and many other skills. Utilizing the variety of specialty tools and weapons to perform their missions. The officers in the SRT have undergone special training and have access to an arsenal of weaponry, armor and surveillance devices beyond standard issue police gear. Much of this gear comes in the form of military surplus. Advanced weapons and equipment are part of what sets the team apart from regular patrol officers. SRT officers piece together their body armor from military surplus and items purchased with federal grant money. Sometimes they buy their own. Wearing body armor is a balancing act between protection, heat and freedom of movement. The torso and head are usually protected using Kevlar panels and Kevlar helmet. Some body armor incorporates ceramic armor. Each officer has a lot of freedom in deciding which weapons he feels most comfortable using. The typical officer's arsenal includes a reliable, powerful handgun, a submachine gun and a shotgun. Officers trained for counter-sniper work will have a long-range rifle. Popular handgun choices include the Sig Sauer P220 and P226, 9mm guns made by Glock, Beretta or Hepler and KAWS, particularly guns from the USP series. Many SRD agents prefer the higher firepower provided by the Colt 45. Handguns are typically worn lower down on the left than the hip holster common to patrol officers, with a modified holster for fast draws. Semi-automatic weapons used by SRDs are often guns that were confiscated, so there's a lot of variety. Uzis, AK-47s and M16s are all common, and the H&K MP5 is another popular choice. All of these weapons can be equipped with silencing devices, allowing officers to take down suspects and maintain stealth if other hostile suspects are nearby. There are several models of 12-gauge shotgun useful for SRD purposes. The benefits of a shotgun include extreme stopping power at close range and the ability to hit the target quickly without having to take careful aim. Shotguns can also open doors, and shots bounced off of pavement can flush suspects from hiding places. Models I Remington, Benelli and Mossberg can be found in SRD units throughout the United States. It is also possible to mount a shotgun under the barrel of a submachine gun. The Nightmaster TS and Sienna Ultimate are combination guns of this type. Police snipers are known to prefer bolt-action rifles. Many use hunting rifles modified for police use, while some pay to import European rifles. Laser and optical sights can be used. One restriction: military 50 caliber rifles have limited police use. They are so powerful that a shot can easily go straight through the suspect or even the wall and hit a hostage or bystander. When the team initiates a raid, it forms a single file line known as the snake. This minimizes the number of team members who present an open target to armed suspects, though it obviously maximizes the risk to the officer at the front of the line. This officer is known as the point man. It's his job to enter an unknown room first after other team members have forced the door open, if necessary, and neutralize any suspects that he encounters. The point man is the officer who most often has to make split-second decisions. Is the person rushing at him armed? Is that a suspect holding a gun? Is that a hostage or a suspect? Such decisions are literally matters of life and death. As the team enters the room or building, they will yell loudly, or they might use a flashbang, a grenade that creates more light and noise than actual concussive force. The aim is to disorient the suspects for at least a few seconds, usually enough time for the SRD to have them covered with their weapons and face down on the floor. An enormous number of variables can affect the outcome of the raid. The best case scenario is one in which the suspects surrender or are disoriented long enough to be pinned and cuffed by officers. Roughly 90% of all SRD arrests end without the team firing a single shot. Of course, raids can't go bad. If the suspect forces the confrontation, he may be killed by the officers. Officers themselves can be shot, and hostages can be taken out by angry suspects or errant police bullets. That's exactly what special response teams train to avoid. Responsibility: the agent in charge in which the operation is to occur has the overall responsibility for planning and execution of the operation. Preparation: 8. An operational plan should be developed and implemented prior to conducting an operation in which the potential for a violent confrontation is likely or may be reasonably anticipated. B. The plan should contain a strategy for at least the following aspects of the operation. 1. Identification and procurement of equipment needed. 2. Communication procedures to be used, including A. frequencies to be used by the police. B. Communication coordination between the police and any other agencies involved. C. Security of communications prior to and during the operation. 3. Transportation to and from the site as well as designated transportation for arrestees. 4. Identification and description of all known suspects, including vehicles and spouses or associates who might possibly be encountered. 5. Designation of areas of responsibility for agents and any other officers participating, including A. Preparation of any search warrants. B. Obtaining and executing any arrest warrants or orders for arrest. C. Maintaining and maintaining security of the premises during the operation. D. Execution of search. E. Arrest of the suspect. For suspects: F. Evidence custody. G. Sketching, photographing and/or videography of the scene. H. Interview of primary suspect. By other interviews. 6. Contingency plan for support units fire, EMT, etc. 7. Personnel present fluent in any foreign language likely to be encountered, and 8. Participants in the operation will be dressed so that it will be readily apparent that they are law enforcement officers. Agents will wear police-issued body armor. Deployment of the Special Response Team (SRT) will be the decision of the agent in charge. The agent in charge will notify the SRT team leader. Briefing. A. Prior to the execution of the operational plan, a briefing should be conducted for all affected personnel. B. The objectives for the operation should be clearly announced and the chain of command established. C. The plan for the operation should be reviewed and when appropriate, copies of pertinent details such as photographs, sketches and physical descriptions distributed. D. Any information concerning potential danger such as armed suspects, hazardous chemicals, vicious animals or other dangerous situations should be clearly announced. E. Participants should be advised of any history of violence by any of the suspects and of any information gained indicating the likelihood for violence. F. All personnel should be briefed thoroughly on communications to be used prior to and during the operation. G. Contingency plans, if any, should be reviewed. H. Notes of the information given in the briefing should be retained by the case agent. Operational planning is the use of rational design or pattern for all departmental undertaking rather than relying on change in an operational environment. It is the preparation and development of procedures and techniques in accomplishing of each of the primary tasks and functions of an organization. Police operational planning is the act of determining policies and guidelines for police activities and operations and providing controls and safeguards for such activities and operations in the department. It may also be the process of formulating the coordinated sequence of methodical activities and allocation of resources to the line units of the police organization for the attainment of the mandated objectives or goals. The process of police operational planning involves strategies or tactics, procedures, policies or guidelines. A strategy is a broad design or method, or a plan to attain a stated goal or objectives. Tactics are specific design, method or course of action to attain a particular objective in consonance with strategy. Procedures are sequences of activities to reach the point toward to attain what is desired. The policy is a product of prudence or wisdom in the management of human affairs. The policy is a course of action which could be a program of actions adopted by an individual, group, organization, or government, or the set of principles on which they are based. Guidelines are rules of action for the rank and file to show them how they are expected to obtain the desired effect. Strategic planning is a series of preliminary decisions on a framework, which in turn guides subsequent decisions that generate the nature and direction of an organization. This is usually long-range in nature. Task 1. Develop mission and objectives. Task 2. Diagnose environmental threats and opportunities. Task 3. Assess organizational strengths and weaknesses. Task 4. Generate alternative strategies. Task 5. Develop strategic plan. Task 6. Develop tactical plan. Task 7. Assess results of strategic and tactical plan. Task 8. Repeat planning process. Alternatives options are means by which goals and objectives can be attained. They may be policies, strategies or specific actions aimed at eliminating the problem. Alternatives do not have to be substitutes for one another or perform the same function. For example, our goal is to improve officer survival skills. The plan is to train the officers on militaristic and combat shooting. The alternatives could be: Alternative 1, modify police vehicles. Alternative 2, issuing bulletproof vests. Alternative 3, utilizing computer-assisted dispatch system. Alternative 4, increasing first-line supervision, etc.
Sin City's where you go in with your eyes open.